And the important thing about going to war with the United States of America is that when you have a downed airman, everything turns to the effort of getting that guy out safe.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Stormin' Cellar. I was honored this week to interview Colonel retired Gary Breedlove. He was one of the first aircrewmen to fly on the EC-130E or ABCCC in the Vietnam War. Now I have to apologize to you because my ABCCC C-130 sustained battle damage this week while I was doing some work here in the Stormin' Cellar. So for those who aren't familiar with the ABCCC, it stands for Airborne Battlefield Command and Control Center. It was a EC-130E with a massive crew capsule shoved in the back of it, and it played an integral part on putting the right weapons on the right targets. It carried a myriad of battle staff crew members to manage the flow of combat aircraft for close air support, air interdiction, and combat search and rescue. I'll do another video later and talk specifically about the ABCCC and its operational involvement from Vietnam to Kosovo and beyond. But for right now, let's go to my interview with Colonel Breedlove in beautiful Callaway Gardens, Georgia, to get his perspective of his time on ABCCC during the war in Southeast Asia. Alrighty, well, we're here with Colonel retired Gary Breedlove, a lifelong friend of mine and a mentor back when I was a captain and he was a colonel. And he's going to talk to us today about his time in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War, flying ABCCC, the EC-130s, and really appreciate your
Thank you for the opportunity. I always thought of you as a captain.
I still am, yes sir. Well, as I said, you served with ABCCC, the Airborne Command and Control Center, flying as a weapons controller, and for the 7th ACS, the 7th Airborne Command and Control Squadron. And that was 1971-72?
April 71 and May of 72.
All right.
Udorn, Thailand.
Cool. Now a lot of people don't realize the ABCCC mission started in Vietnam, and of course you flew there, but you also flew as the last crew member on the ABCCC when you flew with our squadron. We had you out for the closing
Thanks to your
ceremonies.
generous hospitality.
Well, I tell you, it was an honor to have you there.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So when you went to Thailand, there was a little bit of a snafu on your survival training. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I was stationed in Japan at the time that I got the assignment, so since it was a consecutive overseas tour, they sent me back to the States, put me through a little weapons controller refresher course, which turned out to have nothing to do with ABCCC, but it did give me a chance to go home for a few weeks. And just about the time I was supposed to go to Thailand, the personnel called and said, "We'd like you to go to Fairchild, to the Aircrew Survival School." I said, "Well, let's see, how would that work?" And so we would ship you from where you are to Fairchild, from Fairchild to Southeast Asia. And I said, "In other words, you want to add a month to my tour?" I said, "Do I have to do that?" And they said, "No." I said, "Well, I won't do it." So I ended up going directly to the Philippines for jungle survival, and became only 100 or 300 guys there that had never been through Aircrew Survival School. So everybody's talking about how you do it at survival, and I'm thinking, I don't remember that. But the interesting thing about jungle survival, we get in there, first day, first session, 300 people in there, and the guy gets up and he says, "Let me tell you this, factually, in the next year, 1 out of 3 of you are going to find yourself in the jungle in Southeast Asia." He hesitates a minute, and he says, "I know what you're thinking. It's going to be the guy on your left, the guy on your right. It might be you, so you better pay attention to what we're going to teach you."
Good advice, right?
Good advice.
Tell me about your mission in Laos. I know you built 1,690 hours, combat hours, supporting operations along the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
Right. Well, 7th ACS had 2 orbit areas, southern Laos, northern Laos. I was southern Laos, and you had a day orbit and a night orbit. I was day orbit. Hillsborough was the call sign. The night orbit there was Moonbeam. In northern Laos, it was Cricket daytime and Alley Cat nighttime. But Hillsborough daytime Laos was primarily working the trails. You had 4 air controllers out there that flew different regions, and they kept up. They were out there every day flying the same region, so they kept up with activity, and they knew what was going on, and they needed ordnance or something like that. Then we could feed it into a forward air controller. They would basically be responsible to getting bombs on target in that particular region. And we had some work. We had intel officers on our airplane also. And they would be talking to some of the ground operations, covert ground operations that were going on, and they may need ordnance, so we could work that together to take care of anybody that had need for some weaponry.
We had quite an evolution in the capsules in the back of the EC-130s. When I was squadron commander of ABCCC, we had data links and things like that were being sent to us from ground agencies, AWACS and everything, and really built our situational awareness up. And the old ABCCC-1 capsule that you worked in, it was a lot more difficult. Tell me a little bit about that.
Very, very basic. We had a capsule, we had radios, and we had a plotting board, plastic plotting board, with a map of the Laos area in there. And the way we tracked aircraft, we had little plastic airplanes with roll-up tape on the back, so you could put them up on the plotting board. And if you had a real concentrated effort going on, you got almost a little stack of airplanes in one location, and feeding those airplanes to a forward air controller. And we had radios, and that was it. So it was very basic, but it was all we knew. We didn't know there were going to be advances, or we would demand let's have them now. But it was an interesting mission. Basic technology, or hardly technology might be an overstatement of what we had. But
well, I'll tell you, with the amount of aircraft that you had to deal with at any one time, especially during maybe even a search and rescue, well, that had to have been incredible to have that many aircraft and try to keep up with everything.
Yeah, it was. First few times you do that, if you come out of a radar environment where you can see what all's going on, and all you know is you're heading over to a FAC, and they're all in that same cluster in there somewhere. It's a little worrisome at first, but they see and be seen.
That's incredible. Now, your year that you were there in Thailand, I understand your squadron moved a couple of times.
Well, toward the end of my tour, the squadron moved from Udorn to Korat, and because of the importance of the mission, they didn't want to lose the orbit time. So we covered both orbits day and night and took off. One day we took off and went out to southern Laos, did our mission, and then we went back and landed in Korat. And logistical support had moved all of our stuff, our personal equipment and everything, and then we're at home in Korat.
There's your new bunk.
There's your new bunk, and you're here to stay for a while.
A little bit of a story on that. When I was stationed at Kadena flying AWACS, we did an exercise at Korat Air Base, and it was almost surreal that you go in there and the officers club was exactly like you guys left it. Had the same patches, U.S. Air Force plaques and things all around. It was just like someone walked out and left it. It was incredible. But
museum.
It was like a museum. Of course, you weren't just flying EC-130s. You hopped on a lot of other aircraft. While a lot of guys were going into Bangkok or doing other things, you decided to fly on a lot of different aircraft. Tell me a little bit about that.
At the end of everything, but people figure I was a little bit crazy, but about every 6 weeks, depending on the mission and the availability of crew members, you were eligible for what was a 3-day compensatory time off. And a lot of people will go to Bangkok or go on some of these local tours that were in safe areas of Thailand. Most of the time, 4 of those during the year, I went to different bases and flew with different crews. The first time I went over to Nakhon Phanom and flew OV-10 FACs over Laos, where we were, southern Laos. And I flew with a Erie mission up over northern Laos with the Shadow EC-130 gunships over northern Laos, which is, at night, there's nothing but campfire lights. That's all you see out there. But before the mission got ready, the crew's about ready to brief, and guys they wondered who the heck this guy is. I'm just a strap hanger. And they're asking me about, well, what are you trying to get the tax break here or something like that? And I said, well, no, I already do that. And they asked me a few other questions, and they came to the conclusion, said, well, he's just crazy.
You confirmed it for them.
Crazy, stay away from him, let him get in the airplane, have a seat, whatever he wants to do.
Oh, that's it.
But the other missions I flew went down to Tak Lee, southern tip of Thailand, and flew with B-52s. We bombed over Cambodia, and with the KC-135 refueling mission. I flew with the EB-66s. I flew with the OV-10 FACs in Cambodia, but the most interesting one for me was I flew with the AC-130 gunships over southern Laos at night. And the interesting thing from a military standpoint is that you're shooting at them, and the AC-130 gunship was a very powerful and effective weapon. If they saw you, you were dead. They're going to finish you. But the other thing is they're shooting back at you. Well, you know, everybody's got tracers, so you're shooting tracers to hit a target, and when you start shooting, they start shooting at you. And it turns out an important guy, one of the most important guys on the airplane, is like a two-stripe airman hanging out the back end of the loading dock on the airplane with a plastic shield on his helmet, and, you know, radioed in with the rest of the crew and the aircraft commander, and he's calling off AAA from the ground. Like 6 o'clock, no threat. And he says 9 o'clock, break right, pilot turns right.
No questions asked.
We don't discuss it. He knows what he's doing, and he's, you know, going to save the airplane and the crew.
Wow.
But those were interesting. I didn't tell my wife about all these until.
Good idea.
So you're not doing anything crazy? No, no, we're good. We're good here.
Tell me about any interesting missions you may have had Navy CCC while you were there.
I think the one that stands out for me because of the fact we saved a life. And the important thing about going to war with the United States of America is that when you have a downed airman, everything turns to the effort of getting that guy out safe. And we had that occasion happen. We were flying one day, and I was the primary controller at the time. And we went down. He got out safe. He's on the ground. So we start bringing everything we can in. You know, forward air controllers, fast-moving guys with ordnance to, you know, to back off the enemy from where he was located. And then the search and rescue guys with the helicopters and the air-to-ground attack guys to help, you know, to push back the enemy and get the guy out. And we worked this mission about 2 hours and a half, and we got him out safely and got him back to his base safely. So it's refreshing and it's satisfying for a mission like that. And it was a pretty long mission and that one effort, but it's a credit to the United States military that the effort we'll put in to saving somebody that go down. It's
and ABCCC was a critical component anytime anyone was shot down because they were coordinating everything.
Yeah, we didn't have any radar controlled aircraft over Laos, except ABCCC was it. We had a pretty good vision of what was going on with forward air controllers, seeing everything, talking to us, and we're talking to the fighters with ordnance. And the intel guys are also giving us some insight on the ground operation.
Wow. Well, finally, what's your thoughts about the war in Vietnam, and more specifically how it was executed? And I don't mean the strategic part of it, because we know that was screwed up in Washington, D.C., but more of the operational execution at 7th Air Force.
Well, at the end of my tour, one thing I remember distinctly, which was the getting out of country. You know, you go to your base on a C-130 airlift, and you go out on a C-130, which was called the Klong around. That was kind of the call sign. And you know, when you're leaving, you think of it as a freedom bird. I'm sitting on the back seat of the row of seats on the airplane, and beyond me, in the cargo area, there's 2 coffins. 2 of those guys who might have been in the same room with me the year before. And the 2 guys that had been killed in Southeast Asia and were going home a different way than I was going home. So that stuck with me personally. The other thing is, as we look back, about every 5 or 6 months, there'd be enough change in the leadership at 7th Air Force, at Tan Son Nhut, that they'd come up with an idea, let's try this. But typically it was something that we had done 6 months before, and we didn't do it anymore because it didn't work. But we had new leadership that somebody was, I guess, leery of saying, hey boss, that don't work. So the most extreme case we had was the AC-130 gunships we mentioned earlier, very effective at night on the trails of killing tanks and killing trucks. And in southern Laos, there was sort of a transition when we were starting to phase out on the day operation and before the AC-130s are out there. Then the bad guys figured out, well, this is the time to try to move as much traffic as we can down the trail. And they weren't like trying to drive from one end to the other. They'd just go from as far as they could and park for the night and hide out or with her. But they decided trying to move during that transition period, and somebody had hit at 7th Air Force said, hey, well, let's put the EC-130 gunships out there at daylight and catch these guys. And when they said that, you said, oh, whoa, man, I don't know about that. So we did for a couple of days, 3 days. And what happened is they're out there in daylight. Everybody can see them, including the guys on the ground. And they got shot down. When the EC-130 got shot down, and lose the crew, lose the airplane. I mean, we got most of the crew out, but, that's a scramble to get that many crew members out of the jungle.
Well, with one-year assignments and people rotating in and out, you're really losing a lot of continuity and, like I say, reinventing the wheel a lot of times. But, well, thank you very much, Colonel Breedlove. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time in Southeast Asia and all you've done for our country.
Appreciate what you're doing with these videos.
Thank you, sir. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Colonel Breedlove. His insight into the war in Southeast Asia brings to light the complexity and sometimes tragedy of air warfare. Okay, I'll leave it there for now. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let me know what you think by leaving your comments down below. So until next time, remember, make sure all your takeoff and landings equal.